Jimmy.
And we are
Sober
Disclosure.
Woo.
Woo. And we are here to disclose the dirty...
Breezy's dirty.
Dirty, nitty, dirty...
Of Breezy's life.
First year.
First year.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, first year of sobriety. And, you know, we're here on the same day. We just changed our clothes.
No!
We filmed our opening earlier. We changed our clothes so it looks like a new day. I felt like I had to say that just because I thought it was so funny. I changed my hat, my shirt.
My shoes. That was the joke.
Yeah, that was the joke.
Okay.
I told her I had a really good joke before we start, and she's like, "Is it about me? Is it mean?" I was like, "No,
it wasn't mean. It's just the truth.
It's the truth."
And here we are. We're literally here to spill the tea, the truth.
Truth.
Starting it off with like a huge truth bomb. Yep, that's
okay.
the
So
truth.
here today we are interviewing the interviewee,
Ooh.
Breezy.
Hi.
So Breezy,
I'm nervous.
I know. I am not nervous because I'm not being interviewed. Breezy, please tell us, how did all this come up? Your life, everything about it, your first year.
That's
Start
a lot.
us off.
That's
a loaded question.
That's a lot. Yeah. Used to feel
Why
so
did you
more.
start sober? Why did you start Sober Disclosure?
Okay, so I wanted to start Sober Disclosure because I have two companies within the recovery space. Taste Recovery, which is an online website and app.
Very smart.
And it helps people find detox, residential, IOP, PHP, and sober living. And for me, I wanted to... I've seen that there's been so much just, I don't know how to put it, just really icky, no, just like really terrible things happening in the recovery space, especially the addiction treatment facilities.
100%.
So I wanted to create this platform that could provide a certain level of transparency. And I think that's what I've done. I'm really proud of it. But I was just really seeking more connection with people. And so I started Camp Sober Fest, which is my other business.
So fun.
And it's literally the best time of my entire
So
life. And, you know, when you hear like, oh, like have a job that you don't even feel like you're working, like that for me is Camp Sober Fest. Like, people watch me and they're like, dude, how are you even functioning? Because I can't go.
On 1 hour sleep.
Yeah. I can't go like literally like you know, a couple feet without like 5 people asking me questions the entire time I'm there.
Yeah, I saw it.
Like,
it was insane.
But I'm upset. Like, it literally feeds my soul for the rest of the
Yeah.
year. Like, I'm just so jacked on like the fact that I get to help people and like sitting there watching people connect and like fall in love and platonically and just, you know, have like a very spiritual experience. So for me, Camp Sober Fest has just been this like beautiful, beautiful thing. And then I wanted to do the podcast because it's like we can only fit so many people into a Camp Sober Fest event. And so I was like, how do I create that same magic and that same community, but on like a much larger scale. And so that for me is like kind of what this podcast I hope will eventually get to, where we can have like the sober gang, like our little
like
posse.
a community.
Yes, that like
where everyone is welcome.
Yeah, and like they get to show up to Camp Sober Fest and meet us and just be like, oh my God, that story literally helped me so much, and like I realized I wasn't alone. Like I didn't have to go use over what I did because I heard you do the exact same thing and you stayed sober.
Yeah.
So for me, that is like, yeah.
I didn't even think that far ahead. That's awesome that you did.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like that,
no, that's awesome. I
that
love
for
it.
me is what this podcast is all about. Like that's what I hope to get out of telling the really traumatic things in that first year. Just because, like, you know, I've had so many sponsees that have called me and they're like, oh my God, I did it again. I can't stop. And it's like, I can help that one person on the phone, you know, and I can tell them my experience. But, like, to be able to talk about it to the masses and have other people be like, oh yeah, I literally did that too. And like,
speaking of that, because you brought up the sponsees and them doing the things over and over again, tell us your routine. And you want me to tell you what I mean about that?
Yeah.
So what's your routine that you only got sober once? Twice. So what's the routine you kept doing and maybe in your gut knew you were doing it and it was not good for you, but you kept doing it because you still weren't ready to like focus on it? Why'd you relapse and why did you keep doing the same thing and hold yourself at like a level of,
like,
you know, like
before
white knuckling it?
The very first time I got sober?
Well, yeah, like just everyone has a routine. Mine is dating people over and over under my ear.
That's not my routine. That's
no, I'm just saying like I call it a routine.
Oh.
Because it is. It's a routine that you keep up and you do over and over until you snap out of it.
Oh, okay. Well, the first time I got sober, I wasn't done yet, and I knew that in my soul. So, and I didn't have like that, oh, like I'm gonna date people and blah, 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 blah. Like I was so emotionally shut down as a human being. I wasn't even attracted to the opposite sex. Like I wasn't attracted to anyone. Like all I wanted to do was drink, and so there was no thought in my mind of like, oh, I'm trying to like feel something different. Like I was just literally trying to get through another day and like hope and pray that I got to drink soon, you know. But as far as November 10th, 2016 up until November 10th, 2017, what were things that I was doing in that first year that was like I knew were bad, but I kept doing it?
Like the main one.
So I went to treatment in Florida, and obviously this is my second treatment center, and I met a boy and I fell in love, and I'll never forget this woman. We'll call her Sally Sue because she said we're not using real names. So Sally Sue worked at the treatment center I went to, and she got up in front of what we had like community, and our treatment center was really big. There was like 70 or 80 of us at this point, and she said, look around the room, the person to your left or to the right of you is probably gonna die, within the next year. And I remember just being like, bitch, you crazy. There is absolutely no way that's a true
How do you know that?
Yeah, like, okay, this bitch is just trying to scare us because she doesn't want us dating. Like, whatever. And mind you, I got sober at 24. I had never had a boyfriend. Never.
Were you a virgin?
No.
Okay.
But I lost my virginity at 21 because I was always drunk. I literally couldn't, I didn't want to have sex with people. And so I had never had a boyfriend. Like when she's saying all of this about like, don't get into a relationship, blah, blah, blah. I was like, not gonna be me. Like I'm so emotionally unavailable. I'm not gonna be one of those people that gets into a rehab romance. Like definitely not. And within like a couple of weeks, here comes, Breezy and
It starts with a G. Breezy loves boys that start with G's.
Yeah.
Okay, keep going.
Okay, so we'll just say G.
Yeah.
He was
G.
a G. He was a G. So, he ended up needing to come back to California. We both are from California. And he was like, take my ring. This is my favorite ring. I'll come back for you. Like, don't worry. He also was a heroin addict. And like, I didn't know what I was getting myself into. I was strictly alcohol. So he was like, don't worry, I'll be back in like 2 days. I have to go home for a court case, blah, blah, but here's my ring. And I was like, okay. So So two or 3 days go by and I'm like calling him every day from rehab and he's not answering, and then like he finally answers and he is high as a kite. And I was like, oh my God, you promised me you weren't gonna do this, like you need to get back here. I'm crying, I'm a mess, and I like fully got sucked into the rehab romance. And I don't know, I was so caught off guard by it all. Like I don't know. So I eventually, like, I'm talking to his best friends and they're all like, we've never heard him talk about a girl like this. So, I now have this savior complex and I'm like, oh, I'm going to save him. Like, this is it. He loves me. We're in. And so he finally is like, I'm going to get on a flight. Like, and his best friend tells me he's getting on the flight. And I was like, okay. And I, all day, am waiting at treatment, like waiting for him to come back. And now it's like midnight and I see the car lights coming up and we're like out in the middle of nowhere in a forest. And I was like, there's no reason that a car would be pulling up at this hour, except it must be G. And so I'm like, okay, I'm in a cabin and I'm like, I gotta get out of here. Like, I gotta go see him. And so I sneak out of my cabin and we have house managers on golf carts, like always patrolling. And one of the house managers sees me and I'm like, oh, ow, yeah, I feel sick. I need to go to the nurse. And she was like, oh, okay. So she takes me to the nurse and I'm sitting in the waiting room and then the door opens and she walks in and I'm like, oh, okay, he's here. Like everything's fine.
And that's the start of her routine.
And that is the beginning of the high that I felt in that moment.
And that's what I'm talking about.
Yes, and it literally, I chased that high for years and years
sober.
And years sober. That was my new drug of choice, was saving people. And he walked in, he looked like death, and it was just like I was mad, but I was like, he came back for me. I did this. And it started this crazy journey for me of thinking that I had any sort of control over other people's addiction. It wasn't just with men, it was with people, friends, whatever. And it caused so much chaos in that first year. And, I started putting myself up on this crazy pedestal of just like, I'm better than everyone, I'm getting it, I'm going to meetings, I'm doing all the right things, like all of the, it was all ego, all pride. And I had a really hard year because of it. And I wasn't even working like the steps. Like I was so delusional. I was so delusional my first year. Like I look back on this year, literally like I was looking at pictures of myself back in the day and I was just like, oh, like
kind of like old alcoholic photos.
Yeah.
Are similar to old first year photos.
Yes.
Yeah.
1 million%.
Yeah.
So G and I went through this process for a couple of years and he was a chronic relapser.
And this is with suggestion from people that are close to you to not do it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But I was just like, you're wrong. Like we're different. I literally told myself that all the time.
That's a big one.
Yeah.
I'm different.
Yeah. And I go back to Sally Sue and, and she told us that, look around the room and all these people are going to be dead. During my 89 days at that treatment center, we had the most couples that treatment center had ever seen. And
Breezy started that.
No, I didn't.
With her energy.
No, I didn't. I did not start it. We all just like, it was like Christmas time and,
people want to be with people.
What happens now even in sobriety or like just in general normies, like people just like to be coupled up when it's, and you're not going to be home for the holidays and like, I don't know. So we had like, I think 8 couples at the treatment center at one time. And at least one person from every couple, except for one of the lesbian couples, has died, including G. And yeah, like if I could go back and change it, I absolutely would.
You would?
I would. If that would save him. You know, if it would save him, I would change it for sure. But you know, I have no control over that. And I think, you know, hearing it from Sally, she didn't feel like a credible source to me at the time. Like, I was 24, I was young, I was naive, and she was like this older woman, and I was like, what does she know about young love? Like, I've never been in a relationship.
She was young before?
Yeah. I was like, there's no way that she knows how I feel. I've never been in a relationship. I've never been in love. I've never. Yeah. And also, this was a trauma center as well. And I went into that treatment center with severe PTSD and trauma. And, you know, for me, it was like, oh my God, I found this person that makes me feel safe. And, you know, all of the things. I had all the excuses in the world. And I'm so grateful that today I didn't have the gift of changing my perception. And so now today, you know, I can see that I still have those same tendencies, those same behaviors, wanting to change somebody, wanting to fix somebody.
How many times after did you keep doing that until you figured it out and it clicked? That part of your life.
So, just one other person.
Oh, just one other person.
Yeah. I tried my best to avoid dating in the rooms. I've like had crushes on people, and then I've been like, okay, I've done enough.
Which that can give you an emotional relapse too.
Yeah, and I've had enough. I've done enough work on myself to know that this is my pattern and my behavior, and to me, my living amends to G, because I obviously can't make amends to him now, is like, I'm not going to do that again, you know? And after he died, I immediately threw myself into another relationship with another newcomer, because it was like, okay, well, I couldn't save him. I'm going to save the next one 1,000%. And, like another 3.5 years of like excruciating pain. But that one I wouldn't change, because it literally, it changed me internally
and it
so much.
Literally positioned your life in a different direction.
Completely. Yeah. Like, I am 1,000% a completely different person today because of that relationship. And I don't say that like, yeah, go for it. You should totally go do these, you know, relationships that you know are bad for you. But I will say I wasn't hitting my knees every night. I really wasn't.
That's why he left you.
Oh my God, Jimmy! And I mean in prayer. I wasn't the person that I wanted to be. I didn't really have friends in the program. I was avoiding young people's meetings because I did not want to get close to people again. Because so many of my friends from treatment had died or relapsed and just completely screwed me over. And I was just like, and genuinely, I thought I was better than, you know, whoever.
No, of course,
I thought I was better than. And so I was like, I'm going to do things this way.
My way.
Yeah.
So tell us something crazy you did in your first year.
Oh my gosh. Okay, well, I had sex in treatment. That was ridiculous. Like, I had somebody guarding
the door?
Yeah.
You guys are freaky.
I know. We literally, we had someone guarding.
Was it a guy or a girl?
It was a guy.
Oh my God, it was his best friend.
We had sex in his cabin. It was his roommate.
And he's like, yeah, use it.
Yeah, and so we went and, we didn't get caught. We never got caught actually having sex in treatment.
Yeah.
But we did get caught making out in a room, and a house manager, like, immediately started shaming us and being like, you guys are having sex. And we're like, whoa, like we hadn't even had sex yet at that point. And yeah, it was not fun. What other crazy things did I do in my first year? I decided to go on a road trip with one of my best friends. We, at this point, were in sober living in Florida. And she wanted to go back to her house down in Delray. And I was like, okay. And so we ended up going on this road trip. And I realized very quickly that she is in the shower for way too long and way too many times.
We know what that means.
Yeah. She was in the shower like 5 times a day. And I was like, this is not looking good. And our sober living had a policy where if you know that someone's getting loaded and you don't tell on them, you have to, like, and they find out, you both are getting kicked out. So,
oh, shit. That's a good one, actually.
Yeah, you gotta learn, accountability. And so I was sitting there and I decided to go through all of her things. And I found her needles, I found her drugs. And I texted a picture to our house manager and I was like, this is what's happening. And so we got back to the sober living after driving for like 5 hours. I had to literally pretend the whole way that I didn't know what was going on, like just totally believe her own delulu, right?
Yeah.
And they were like, okay, well, we're gonna, pee test you both. She already had the pee up her hoo-ha and was ready for it. And she tested clean and they were like, okay. And so they were like, well,
savvy. Yeah.
And they were like, okay, we're gonna actually go through we're actually gonna go through all of your stuff. And they
found it.
They found it, yep. And she didn't get kicked out. I don't remember what happened. I think she ended up going to detox or something. I actually don't really remember the whole situation, but just like the situations I would put myself in my first year was like crazy. Yeah. I actually got kicked out of that sober living. I was one of the only sober people in that sober living, and I was the one that got kicked out.
Why? Say it. Don't think about it.
I know. So
you brought it up.
We had 3 house managers.
Okay. She had sex with a house manager.
No. What? They're all women. One of our house managers was a black woman.
Okay.
And she was the one on staff at this particular night. And like I said, everyone was secretly drinking and getting loaded and all of the things, and I was like still going to meetings and like meeting the winners in the rooms. And I came home one night and word got around apparently that I was like the rat of the other girl, and my roommate at the time was like, she's gonna end up telling on me. We got to get her out of here. So I think that was true. I probably was gonna like tell on them.
And you know what? I want to say something.
What?
Because in sobriety, telling on somebody is saving someone's life.
Right. But I wasn't thinking about it
that
way. I was
even
just
if you're not. But even if you're not or are, it is saving someone's life. We're not in jail. We're not gonna get beat. Like, if you're a rat, you're a rat.
You're not gonna get cut for being a rat.
I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
Tell on them. I told on somebody.
Yeah.
And I told on them because I wanted to stay sober.
Yeah. Yeah, true. Secrets keep you sick, and I did not want to keep anyone
and
else's
he was
secrets.
fucking doing drugs in the bathroom.
Yeah.
And he's alive now. You're welcome. You're fucking welcome. You know who you are.
You know what? The people I've told on, they are still somehow, they're not sober, but they are alive. So,
keep going.
You're welcome too.
Yeah, you're fucking welcome.
So, I think I was going to tell on her. And in my opinion, I think that this girl had like borderline personality disorder or something. She was able to like cry on demand really easily. So we're like getting in a fight, we're screaming at each other, and she was dating this guy. She also was from my treatment center. We all ended up going to the same sober living. And she was dating this guy who called her a Mexican. Like, that was, like, his, like, love nickname for her. And I, like, said it back to her. And she...
Was she Mexican?
Yeah. And I didn't say it like, oh, you know what I mean? Like, I, like, said it in, like, I don't really remember. Like, I said it in, like, a funny way, and she knew it. She laughed.
Yeah.
And then immediately started crying and went to our black house manager.
Of course, and
said that I was a racist and that she couldn't be in the same sober living as me. And so I got the boot. But congratulations to her, because she was drinking, and I went to the house manager and I was like, no. I was like, this is what's really going on. They were like, we don't believe you. She came to us first. So it was like this whole plan totally worked out for her. And I was the one that ended up, and they called my poor dad and they were like, your daughter's a racist. And I was like, oh my God. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That is funny.
Yeah.
I like that story.
That's so embarrassing.
It is, but you know, it's not.
It's not.
It's not.
And I literally went and I had to go stay with one of my other best friends who actually is Mexican as well. Like, she was there and she was like, oh my God, this is all bullshit. So I ended up
going. Mexican, if you're watching.
And so we ended up going and hanging out together, and I got to stay with her for a little bit until I found another sober living, and that's when I moved back to California. So it's like, to me,
this was all in Florida.
Yeah, so everything that ever has, like, happened that was really bad has always redirected me in my life to, like, where I'm supposed to be.
So with all of that, because that you know, it's in tune with relationships, romantically, non-romantically. So what are the, like, dating red flags that you see now, and red flags in other people that you yourself had and are aware of and see in other people, and you're like, whoa.
Yeah. Ooh,
you know?
Yeah. So, okay. So back in the day, in that first year, oh my God, this is funny too. So when I was still living in Florida at that sober living, like, when G and I were not together and he would be like, you know, on another run, whatever, I would go to this one specific meeting because I thought this guy was really hot. And his girlfriend was the secretary of the meeting. And for me, it was like, the more unavailable emotionally or actually, like, in a relationship, and that's why they were unavailable, I was like, I must.
She's one of those.
I must have him. And
she was.
Yes, I was. And, you know, and that all stems back from childhood shit, and I've done so much work on it in therapy, and but that was, like, my type. Like, the more I feel like I can fix you, save you, whatever, you choose me over something or someone else, I'm gonna feel more loved. So now today, I feel like with other people, I can see that in them, you know, like, I can spot it because I myself was there and I did that. I also feel like it's really easy for me to see when someone is in that delulu stage where it's like, and something that I did a lot is I would talk about it all the time, like, all the time. If someone would listen to me, I was going to tell them what was going on with G, how he was breaking my heart. I was on the phone with his mom all the time. Like, I just wanted to somehow process it and have other people co-sign it. And so, and to, like, keep feeding that delulu state of mind. And now I can see that in other people, like, and I have empathy for them, you know, like, it's just
and
like,
you build that,
and it's like, you're just not there yet, you know, and I'm like, dude, you know, what is that, like, you can spot what
if
you
you
spot
it, you got it.
Yeah.
If you spot it,
so
you got
it's
it.
like, I immediately, I do see that in a lot of people in the rooms, like, you know,
you're like, that's Breezy 2018, and then you're like, and then you turn around.
Yeah, and I'm like,
bye.
Exactly. And that's the biggest difference now is it's like, okay, maybe I didn't see it at first and I let you in or whatever.
Yeah.
And that goes with anybody, like friends, romantic partners, anything. And
then
it's
your
just
circle gets smaller and smaller in a good way.
Yeah. And my circle is huge.
And big,
Huge, but like the people I really, really, really trust, it is pretty small. And that's something that I was a little bit nervous about this podcast because I am very private about what's like really going on in my life with like a very select few. So it's like, oh God,
it's scary.
How much am I going to talk about? No, I'm not
scary.
used to it. I like tell my therapist and my sponsor and like 2 best friends and that's it.
It's scary. I'm like, scared too.
Yeah, and then everyone else, I'm like, I give them like a brief synopsis of.
Are you scared of me?
No. I think I'm scared of you that you make me feel so comfortable that I can share, and then I forget that there's a camera.
There's a fucking camera. Everyone says that. I think it's because I'm a hairstylist.
Yeah, you're like basically a therapist.
I mean, what else? Have you ever sent like an accidentally text like a message to someone and you're like, oh my God, and cleaned it up, like situations like that?
That happened like pre getting sober.
So now you reread everything and push send.
Yeah, I'm not like a drunken mess, just like oh my God, I wish I would have prepared more for this because there's a specific text message that I received in my first year from that girl I found the drugs.
Oh.
I had landed back home in California and we had like deep wound after me being the rat. And she sent me the meanest text message I've ever received in my life about myself. And it was just like, I was on a high horse. I was, whatever. I forget. I should have pulled it up. Maybe on the next episode I'll have it. And I save everything. Like I have all of my.
I want to hear. That could be another episode. If someone's sharing about something, let's pull it up.
Yeah.
About similar stuff.
Yeah. So but it was all accurate. Like she saw me for who I was. I was absolutely. I thought that I was so above everybody, and like the moment that I realized I didn't have it all together was when I had to take my 1-year chip, and I didn't have a home group. I was not going to meetings, and I was still in sober living, and that was like the one thing that was keeping me sober.
Yeah.
Had I not been in sober living, I probably wouldn't be sitting here today. Because I still was getting, breathalyzed nightly, whatever. And I end up going to like a random meeting with the girls in my sober living. They probably had known about it because they were the good ones. Like they were the ones still going to meetings. And I stood up there to take my year chip and I just started hysterically crying because I was so embarrassed. I had absolutely nothing good to say. I was also like petrified of public speaking. My anxiety had come back. My depression had come back. Like
you're like 12 or 13 again.
Yeah. With no solution.
Yeah.
Like if I'm not working the program, I am just as sick, if not more, because I don't have the alcohol anymore to help me. And so I stood up there and I was just like, wow, like this is bad. And I didn't know I could possibly feel
and that was in front of everybody.
Yeah, I didn't know I could possibly feel this bad, this alone, this broken in sobriety. And it was this very humbling experience where I was like, okay, I need to get a therapist.
It was like an emotional relapse.
Yeah,
I like that word.
Yeah, you do. And because those are allowed. They are allowed.
Yes.
Just don't drink no matter what.
No, don't drink no matter what. Yes.
And you can still have a chance of getting back on track.
And maneuver and everything. Yeah.
And so I ended up finding a new sponsor after that, and she was someone who had lost her significant other. She had 2 kids, And that was always my biggest fear with G, was that he was going to die. And so it was like, I heard her story and I was like, oh my God, there's somebody that like can relate and has actually gone through it and like can hopefully help me navigate to where he doesn't die.
Yeah.
You know, because at the end of the day, like I was still trying to control everything. Something in my first year that I really regret, yet again, like theme of this episode is I had a huge ego because I did not want to look at myself. And
acceptance.
Yeah, and we went on a family reunion and my brother had just started using again.
The sober one that took you to meetings?
Yeah.
Okay.
So he just started using again, and it was going to be the year anniversary of my sexual assault. And I was just emotionally really not in a good place. It was my 9 months I had 9 months sober at that point. And my brother, I said something to him along the lines of, you should be celebrating a year this weekend. Because I remembered my sexual assault happened on the same, or the day before he got sober. And he ended up coming, we were sharing a hotel room, and he ended up coming to the room intoxicated, and I was already asleep. And I woke up to him making the worst noises I've ever heard in my life. And I had to run.
Like detoxing?
No, like he was like...
Like mentally...
Not overdosing, because it was on alcohol, but it was like...
His body was hurting.
Yeah, like he was... To me, I say it like he was overdosing, but
yeah.
I know you can't overdose on alcohol, but I don't know.
You can into seizure, right?
I don't know. That's a good question.
We don't know.
If I don't know something, I will just say I don't know.
I don't know.
I would
yeah.
rather make it, I don't want to make things up and be wrong. So, so I ended up running to my dad's hotel room and getting him, and he came back, and we called the cops, and the cops came and they took him away, and my dad left. My dad was like, our room was a mess. And so my dad was like, go stay in my room. And I walk into the room, and my dad is not an alcoholic, and so he had this open bottle of wine. And that was like one of it wasn't the first time I wanted to drink, but it was like, oh my God, this horrific, tragic thing just happened. It's my fault because I triggered him by what I said because of my ego. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know how to communicate. I didn't know how to say, hey, I really wish you were still sober. You know, so instead I had to shame him. And so I go into my dad's room and I look at the bottle of wine, and I was just like, oh no, I want to drink so bad. I want to forget that this night ever happened. I'm so ashamed. And I start calling my sponsor. We were in Michigan, and I start calling my sponsor back in California, and she didn't answer. I called her like 30 times, and I was like, this is a sign that I'm supposed to drink. And I was like, okay, just one more person. I'm gonna call my sister. And my sister answered, and it was like 1 a.m. She had a newborn, and like, she shouldn't have answered. You know what I mean?
Or she should have. She has a newborn.
Yeah, that's true.
She's awake.
And she talked me through it, and I didn't drink that night.
Yeah.
And, you know, but it's like those moments where, and before I called her, I did pray. That was like the first time I actually tried relying on a higher power in that first year of sobriety. And I was just like, okay, like I'm gonna see, you know, I'm gonna pray, and then I'm gonna call my sister. And my sister called, and she answered, and I was like, oh, okay, maybe God is real.
That's like a godsend.
Yeah, I was just like, okay, and I didn't end up drinking, and thank God, because somehow, you know, I ended up white knuckling it for the next 3 months, and here I am today.
And here you are today.
Still sober.
So you will have more stories from Breezy, and she did have breakdowns, more breakdowns, and I met her at a breakdown.
Yeah.
I invited her to a meeting, and she had a crazy breakdown, And it's about a boy. It's always about a boy.
It's always
for
about
me
boy.
and her. And you know, we'll touch more on that, on little things like that, and
further episodes.
For the other episodes. And thank you, Breezy.
You're so welcome.
That was
Can't
a
wait to get
good
into
first
your
year.
story.
I know. It's like more first year, but then this happened like your 8th year, right?
What?
Like 7th year?
What?
Or maybe 7th year where I met you. Yeah.
I met him when I had 4 years sober.
4 years sober.
Yeah.
So then 4 years in, and you still are fucked up a little bit.
4 years in what?
I'm just saying, like, creating the next routine, and I can't wait to talk about that.
Yeah.
And kind of go into, because we're doing first years, but you can still do things that, like me, like 4 and 10.
Yeah. Relating it back
to the other. So
if
there's exciting things.
If you don't learn in your first year, you're gonna keep repeating it until you learn. Learn it now. If you're in your first year, like, oh my God, I wish so badly that I would have just learned the lesson then. You know? I wasn't ready yet.
You weren't ready.
And if you're not ready yet, just don't drink no matter what.
It's okay. Just don't drink no matter what.
Just don't drink no matter what.
So, I'm Jimmy.
And I'm Breezy.
And this is
we are
Sober Disclosure.